Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Township Board of Trustees business meeting for November 14th. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're starting to get into the holiday season here. This meeting and the next meeting are right in the middle of it, so I know everybody's excited about that, or should be. Certainly had a pretty good year this year for the township and for the residents. So now we're going to get to the most business of the meeting is going to be additions and deletions. So we'll get to that, and I will start, in fact, by motion to add a consent agenda number 11 to add the 2022 revised winter tax levy. Support. Thank you. Any questions? That's because of our election that we just had and the millages that passed. We have to amend or revise our tax levy to include those. Include one of them. Actually, only one of them's being included. That's the road millage. The fire millage doesn't start until next year. So that's what that is. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor of adding consent agenda number 11, 2022 revised winter tax levy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. We have number 11 added. 5, 6. Others, additions, or deletions?
Mr. Supervisor,
Yes, sir.
this time I'd like to make a motion to add consent agenda number 12 to approve the revised edition of the Administrative Policy and Procedures dated November 14th, 2022.
Second.
You? David, you want just a quick history on that?
Just following, the board had a study session on the policies and procedures, and there were, several revisions that we all agreed should be made to the previous policy and procedure handbook, and those are encapsulated in this edition.
All right. Yes.
Well, and I just wanted to recapture what you had said to me before the meeting, that in terms of access and commissioner permission to go to conferences and things, nothing changes.
Nothing changes. They're
continue to be
allowed.
able
They're still able to go.
Excellent. Thank you.
Other comments, questions?
Mr. Supervisor, I got
Yes,
just one question, if you could clarify. I don't know if this is an add-on or for this, but the last meet, well, I don't think it was the last meeting. It may have been the one previous since we had that special meeting. But we talked about the public comment at the end, and we had 4 people that wanted it still at the end. Can you shed some light why?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, can you-
When we left, I asked for comments, not discussion, but comments. Make that very clear that I just was looking for the comments to make sure. And I only had a couple of trustees that either talked to me, actually both of them. It was talked to me as well as put it in writing. But what we had, as you know, Joe, because you got my memo that explained what is in here. It came out that we had 4 people who would have favored one public comment. However, I felt that from our meeting, those who wanted 2, were very sincere and very much wanting 2. So I proposed a compromise and the compromise being 2 public comments and putting the public comment, the other part of that was where does it go? 2 public comments and having the public comment prior to the board's reports. And that was in the memo, that was in the document that you received, and I heard nothing back. So that is what's in there.
Okay, so just so I understand,
Yes.
so 2 others, or at least 1 other from
One
the
other.
4, said that they would go with your compromise and we'll do it this way.
No, nobody, no, one in their comments said one public comment. So.
So we don't, here, the bottom line here, I get it, it's,
You know,
if there's
and
4.
I felt very strongly about what you guys had said, and that's why I came up with the compromise that we would stay with 2.
Okay, but so I understand. Right now, there's 4 people on this board that want it the way it is right now, or we wouldn't be going this way.
But no, that's the way I have it written out. That's the way I have it written
But
out.
when we talked about it, Uta, Kyle, Jameson, and myself said we'd like to have the 2, one at the very end. And so somebody out of the 4, I'm not trying to
I know.
pull
No,
teeth here.
no, yes.
I just want to know if 4 to 3 means it's 4 to 3. If it's 5 to 2, 6 to 1,
Yes.
I'm just trying to see.
Yeah.
So there's 4 people that want it the way it is right now.
We're going to find out.
We're gonna find out when we vote.
Well, yeah, but if,
It hasn't been voted on yet?
no, but we talked about it, and there was 4, we had a consensus.
In talking to the people that approached me,
Right.
one said that they could live with 1 public comment. That would give, if you went on that, because there wasn't a vote, but just on the comment would have been 4 for 1 public comment, 3 for 2 public comment. I took that comment in, and I said, I felt that the people who were very strong about the 2 public comment, I felt it was worth throwing out a compromise position. That's what I put in. That's
Okay.
what I gave you in the memo.
Right, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I just
See,
want
so that's the compromises.
I understand. So the bottom line here is we did have 4 that wanted 1 at the end and 1, well, it wouldn't be right at the beginning, but it'd be near the beginning. So something changed since then, and then we're going to vote. And if you vote yes for this, then you're agreeable to having it where it's at. That's all.
That is it. That is correct.
Then that's
That
where
is
we're at.
correct.
As long as I know, that's what
There's
happened.
In your revision, there is 2 public comments.
I understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that.
Yep.
But I just want to make it clear, there was no vote that took place. The supervisor and whoever else worked on this document are presenting it to the board for approval. It has not been voted on by anybody.
No, but we talked, we
But
did
the-
talk
we
about
talked.
it. We talked and we had a consensus that there was 4 of us.
Can I please finish? The point is.
sure.
I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No, you're
He,
not. You're not. You're just
um,
explaining.
Jim presented this to the board initially, and we had a study session, and we talked about it at length. Essentially, he is now representing his version of this after our discussions, and now it is up for a vote. Do we agree or not agree?
That's all I
But there
needed.
hasn't been a straw vote or anything.
There wasn't a vote that night, but as we went, the term Jim used was, I see we have a consensus, we want it at the end, so we'll deal with this, and he's, the email, whatever. I just want to see what happened from then till now, and if you vote yes for it, then you are for something different than the 4 of us has said that night. So that's fine.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that was just
that's
talk.
life.
That was
If
just
you-
talk. That
Yeah.
wasn't, I mean.
No, there was
don't-
no vote.
yeah,
I'm not,
there's
Jim,
no
I'm not
vote,
saying you were,
please.
no, I'm not
No,
saying.
if you vote yes, you're voting for the version that was presented to us now. If the board
Yep.
votes it down, then there has to be another version.
There has to be another version.
That's
Simple
really
as
how,
that. Yeah.
that's how that is intended to work, Joe.
I have no problem. I get which way it works. I just want to know what happened from that night when we had 4 to now. So if you vote yes, then you're happy with what we see. And if you vote no, you're not. So it
Right.
is what it is. The vote
That's
is
what
what
it
it is.
That's how votes go.
get
Yep,
it.
you're absolutely right.
All right.
You're absolutely
Then
right.
I
Thank
get
you,
it.
Joe.
As,
And I,
if I may, Jim,
yes,
as one of the people that worked on the rules for a long time, collectively, we have hundreds of hours there. I would draw your attention to section 2.4I,
which is on page 19 of our packet, and it notes amendment to 2.4 board rules. These rules may be deleted, added to, or otherwise changed only upon a motion of any member plus the concurrence of 3 other members. So if this doesn't work out, or we find that it's unwieldy or not appropriate for any reason, 2.4I allows us to make the changes and do anything with the agenda that you want to. So that's in addition to where we are right now with tonight. If
I
this
get you.
doesn't work out,
That's a good point.
make a change.
No, I understand that. I just don't know what happened between then and now, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else? Anything else?
May I make a motion to, because I feel
No,
like the.
no,
Okay.
we're dealing, we have to deal with this motion first. We can't have a motion and a motion. Do you have any other comment on this motion?
Not at the time, not
Okay.
right now, thank you.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to add consent agenda number 12, Policies and Procedures Handbook. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Nay.
That-
It was just Kyle and me.
Yeah,
But-
we need the count.
Oh, okay.
So, but,
Okay, so,
Kyle, you can now make another
What?
motion? Can
Okay.
he not?
well, when we continue.
When we continue? I didn't want you to think you
No,
were
no, I
being
understand.
shut down.
Okay.
No, no, I
No.
didn't feel that way, thank you.
All right, we're still in the adds and deletions, and this is a meeting where there's numerous adds and deletions.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, yes, Dave.
I'd like to make a motion to delete consent agenda number 9, which is contract language for the primary clarifier rebuild at the wastewater treatment plant.
Support?
That's being removed because of some some issues in the language in the contract as it was put together, and that has to be ironed out before it comes back to the board for approval.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you, David. Any other comments on that? Joe, do you have any comment on this? Okay, no, you go ahead.
Yeah, I
I
was
just
trying
want to,
to
I'm trying to
get something from
move
Dave
with
there.
the vote. Okay, no other comments on that, so we have a motion to delete contract language, primary clarifier, rebuild wastewater treatment plant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that is deleted. I too have I'm gonna take number 8, or did you?
Yeah, because I'm not going
Okay,
to do it.
okay, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I would like to make a motion to delete consent agenda number 8, Michigan Sparks grant application.
Support.
Okay, and it's just, we had some procedural errors, and I fully expect to see this back at our next meeting. So that it just procedural errors, so it's not properly here at this time. So we need to remove it though because it's on the agenda. Other comments? Hearing none, I have a motion to delete consent agenda number 8, Michigan Sparks grant application. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, thank you. Now you make me count. All right. Okay. Also, I am going to make a motion to delete action item number 4, resolution to impose the property tax administrative fee.
Support.
Okay, and that, there's kind of a package there of action items, 4, 5, and 6, that all go hand in hand. There was discussion regarding this. I was approached by a couple of board members who said they would like more time on it to look at this, and I have no problem. I had no problem with that, so I said I'd make the motion. So that is why I am making the motion to delete this action item. Other comments? Hearing,
Oh, I would like to speak
Yes.
on this a little bit. So I was one of the board members that approached you. Supervisor Budny, thank you for offering to delete this action item. I just want to put on the, just talk a little bit about it, if I may. I know for me, it was honestly a little scary. I've had other trustees sit up here.
Kyle,
Oh, yeah.
this discussion has to be with just the adding or deleting of an item, not the item itself.
Okay, I'll save my comments till the
Okay.
trustees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, we have a motion to delete action item number 4, resolution to impose the property tax administrative fee. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
didn't see your
I was
hand.
going to say, I think because Kyle was presenting context for being one of the people to ask you to remove it, you could allow him to explain why he.
I'm okay. I'm
It-
good
It
with
would
that.
help other people understand why.
Okay, I'm
it's
good.
being-
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, okay, I'm okay with waiting until my trustee comments to talk about it.
No,
so-
go ahead. Go ahead.
For me, I was one of the trustees. Again, thank you Supervisor Budny for offering to delete this. Again, I'm sorry. I'll wait till my trustee comments. Thank you. I'll leave it
Okay,
there.
all
Thank you
right.
so much.
Okay, I think I've read the, the motion enough to delete, so all in favor of deleting? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, action item number 4 is deleted. With the deletion of number 4, I now make a motion to delete action item number 5 to amend the 2022-2023 fiscal budget.
Or,
Okay, and again, that item flows from number 4. If number 4 isn't there, then number 5 doesn't make any sense. Since we deleted number 4, we need to delete number 5. Any comment? Does everybody at the board understand that? Okay. With that, motion to delete action item number 5 to amend the 2022-2023 fiscal budget. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? Okay. All right, and one more, along with deleting those other 2. At this time, it would, we have to properly delete action item number 6. And the reason for that is we have no funding for it without 4 and 5. So, and police are aware of this. This is something that will come back. We're going to look, we're looking at the funding of it. And when we get that down, we can't hire a police officer without the proper funding. So any questions on that?
I'll support.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to delete action item number 6, hire police officer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, we have that. So we have a number of additions and deletions. Any other board member have any other additions or deletions that we haven't run across? If not, I would ask for a motion. I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, since we had so many, just for sake of getting this correct, we have added consent agenda number 11 and consent agenda number 12. We have deleted consent agenda number 8, consent agenda number 9, and deleted action items number 4, 5, and 6. Thank you for going through that. Now we have, we'll take a little rest here. We have a presentation. And this is one of the nice ones really to do for this gentleman. For anyone that serves like he has, this is well deserved. And I'm going to call Bill Stevens up, if he would, and I'll let him. By the way, we do have in the audience, and probably will be speaking, is Jamie Churches, our newly elected House Representative. Congratulations, Jamie.
Round of applause.
Bill, take it away.
Okay.
This has been a long time coming. Yes,
Yes, it has. I know. Thank you, Supervisor Budny and the Board of Trustees. Appreciate you putting us on the agenda and giving us the time here. I'd like to call up all the members of the Greenways Open Space Committee to come forward at this time, who are here. Jamie, you can come too. Yeah, this has been a long time coming, more ways than one, and we're really here tonight to honor Cliff St. Pierre for his dedication and his service for more than 20 years to our community and our Greenways Open Space Committee. Through his leadership and working with the various committees over the course of 20 years or more, you'll just look around our island and we see the beauty of the island that has also been preserved over the course of time, certainly under his leadership. We have more than 600 acres that have been set aside for open space, and we have many trails that we maintain and try to steward and govern as best as we can. So Representative Camilleri originally was going to be here tonight and was going to be here on several different occasions, but with the elections, we are also pleased to say that he has moved on to the state Senate, and he could not be here this evening because he has Senate school, I am told, so he has to attend tonight. But in his stead, we have Representative-elect Jamie Churches, who will do the honors. And contrary to popular belief, Cliff St. Pierre did not plant all the trees on Groseal. Although I have seen many that he has planted and that were certainly here before his tenure. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Representative-elect Jamie Churches, and she will read the resolution. Thank you. Proclamation.
Thank you all. It's so nice to be here to fill in for Rep. Camilleri tonight as he fulfills his duties. So, Clifford St. Pierre, let it be known that it is with great pleasure and admiration that we offer tribute to Clifford St. Pierre on this occasion of his resignation from his position as chair of the Greenways Open Space Committee. Clifford's tenure as chair has clearly shown his dedication and service to the residents of Groseal and visitors who are able to enjoy the natural beauty of Groseal. Throughout his years of service, Clifford was an excellent example of servant leadership and the civic spirit of volunteerism to his fellow committee members and the entire Groseal community. A resident of Groseal for more than 60 years, Clifford married his wife Patricia and raised his family in the community. He eventually pursued a career at Chrysler Corporation serving the business and industry until his retirement, when he decided to get involved and serve his community further. His drive to serve his people has been brought to light by his service on a newly formed committee. After his retirement, Clifford became a member of the brand new Greenways Open Space Committee, which was established in November of 1994. When Clifford arrived late to the first meeting, he discovered he'd been elected chair, a position he would fill with integrity and passion until April of 2022. Under his leadership, citizens of Groseal taxed themselves to support open space by passing 2 millages, one to procure property, and with foresight, one to maintain open space properties and trails. Also under his leadership, Clifford recognized the problem of dumping and initiated a twice-yearly dump the junk, or find the treasure program, depending on how you look at it. Clifford's ability to promote the teamwork between township staff and committee members by sponsoring an annual holiday luncheon contributed to the success of the committee. Clifford has clearly shown his passion truly lies in protecting the community, and we commend him for his decades-long good work in planting seeds of conservation for the future. His accomplishments are impressive, and they are earned. From leading initiatives with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, helping coordinate with the Recreation Commission and Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee to offer more ways to explore Groseal's great outdoors, to receiving the 2016 Conservationist of the Year Award from Groseal Nature and Land Conservancy. His role in our community has been significant, and we are so glad to congratulate Clifford as he embarks on his journey. So in special tribute, therefore, this document has been signed and dedicated, so we join our Groseal community in honoring Clifford St. Pierre today. Congratulations.
Not quite yet, Cliff. Not quite yet. Hold your position there. Look for your checkbook.
Okay.
That's an inside joke with Cliff and I. We have something else for you. Clifford St. Pierre. Whereas Clifford St. Pierre has served for approximately 28 years as a dedicated committee member in the Greenway Open Space Committee for the Township of Groseal. And whereas Clifford St. Pierre has brought with him a wide range of knowledge and experience studying and learning the land of his beautiful hometown, and whereas during his commitment with the Township of Groseal, Cliff St. Pierre has served as chairman of the Greenway Open Space Committee for approximately 22 years, and whereas during his volunteer commitment with the Township of Groseal, has been instrumental in the process of gaining and maintaining open space land on Groseal, and whereas Clifford St. Pierre has provided tremendous support to the residents of Groseal in the most dedicated and professional manner throughout his volunteer commitment with the Township of Groseal, and whereas the Township Board of Trustees regretfully accepts the resignation as chair, but looks forward to his continued knowledge and future dedication as a member of the Greenway Open Space Committee. And therefore, on this date, November 14th, 2022, I, James C. Budny, on behalf of the Groseal Township Board of Trustees, do honor Cliff St. Pierre for his commitment and dedication to the Township of Groseal and to our island community. Congratulations. Now you can
My remarks are going to be short, but hopefully sweet. They will be sweet. Quite frankly, after I retired from Chrysler, I was looking for something to do. And as Jim so eloquently stated, that I arrived late at one of the first meetings that they had and was selected as chairman. I've been noted as a volunteer, but quite frankly, I am the one who has been very highly compensated for all the help, rewards, and pleasure that I have experienced in serving as a member of such a committee. I think there's a lot of people that live on this island, particularly the new residents, who don't quite realize what a wonderful and unique community this is. This is truly a beautiful community and a pleasant place to live. And I just hope I'll be able to spend the rest of my days on Grosse Ile. So thank you very much for these kind words. Thank you very much for helping us have a beautiful island community. And I'm finding it hard to express myself properly, but I just want to say thank you for all the pleasure that you've given me in serving this beautiful island community. Thank you.
Bill, can you introduce your members?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I was going to. Okay.
And Cliff's spouse.
Yes. First off, Cliff's wife is with us today.
Here.
Okay. Pat. Our members of our committee, not all are here this evening, couldn't make it, but those who are here, Roberta Urbani is here, Raymond Geist, and Teresa Weeks. Okay, and they are excellent stewards of our open space.
And Carl.
And Carl Bletcher, our liaison, absolutely.
Bill, thank you very much.
Thank
for
you
this.
all. Very good. We like nights like
Roberta,
this.
thank you for this. I'm glad we could do this. And Cliff, again, congratulations.
Cliff, does your wife get an award too?
No, she's getting Cliff.
For putting up with all that?
He's like, now what are we going to do on
Yeah.
those nights when he had meetings?
Watch her television programs when he's at these meetings.
No, Jim, may I just say one? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead,
Uta.
Joe. You
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, I thought, okay.
No.
No, I just want to say one thing, Cliff. And you probably don't know this, and it's the first time because you don't know who was in my office when I was the police chief. But for any chairperson, Cliff and I met more than all the other chairs combined. Not that I didn't want to see anybody else, but Cliff would come in and he'd give me an education. There were a lot of things I really didn't know and understand about the program. I really didn't, but Cliff would always come in and run things by me, and it was very nice to see him, and I just got an education from it. But thank you very much.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may make a comment. People come to the township either as elected officials or as volunteers because they have, in most cases, a goal of keeping things, the good things, as good as they are, in a view towards tomorrow making things better. 3.5 decades ago, the community voted a millage for open space. And Cliff, it's been your vision to steward the property, to make it as good as it can be, to dump the junk, to remove all of the debris and offer an alternative to dumping in the woods, to all of the paths and the trails that are there. And I have jokingly said to you on occasion that we should name it the Cliff St. Pierre Memorial Trails. And thankfully, we're having an opportunity to recognize your fine efforts today. You've been an inspiration, obviously, not only to Trustee Porcerelli, but to myself as well, Cliff. And I have served for 6 years on the Greenways Open Space Committee, and it has been an absolute pleasure working with you. And I find that it's going to be very, very difficult to find the same kind of passion, energy, and longevity, Bill, that you have brought. But mostly I want to say thank you to your wife, Pat. Every time I've called the house looking for you, she can't get me off the phone fast enough and transfer it over to you. It has been an absolute wonder, and I think she is the epitome of the old adage that says behind every good man is a better woman. And Pat, I want to thank you for sharing him with us and making this community a better place as well. Thank you both.
All my colleagues have pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. Cliff, you've been a great role model. and an inspiration. I know my parents have always enjoyed working with you as well. You and your committee work very close with the Grosse Ile Nature and Land Conservancy, and as you know, that's an organization that's very close to my family's heart, and so you really made this a township-wide program. And the Dump the Junk, Find the Treasure, my gosh, we all look forward to that, which is, I guess uniquely Grosse Ile. So thank you for your service. And Pat, again, thank you for letting him out of the house when you wanted to watch your programs.
Anyone else? Okay, again, I can't congratulate you enough. This residents like Cliff, who put in so many years, and actually we have a number of people on commissions and committees that when you start adding up their years of service, it's a long time. But that's what a good community needs: people who are dedicated to their community. And I can't thank you enough, Cliff. It's been a pleasure working with you and just knowing you. Thank you. All right. With that, we go to our first public comment. 3 minutes. Please state your name and where you live. Any public comment? Okay. If you're willing, you had your hand up, but if you're willing, that's fine.
I'd like to say thank you to Mr. St. Pierre. My wife and I enjoy walking through the open spaces and trying to figure out what's a pig nut and what's a shagbark hickory, and it really is beautiful. Thank you. And 100 more trees planted. I wanted to talk about the addition and deletions of the policy and procedure. There was a meeting on October 24th that was not recorded, and at that meeting, a number of people on the board, you're making changes to the policy and procedure of how the public speaks at a meeting, when they speak and if they speak. And it sounds to me that as if you had a meeting, an electronic meeting discussing what's the other word, deliberating on how you were going to do that.
Absolutely.
And you did have that?
No.
No, okay. Well, it sounds like that. And my thought is, the meeting that was the public was not invited to speak at the October 24th meeting. It was all just the elected officials. I think that if you're going to change how the public is able to proceed and discuss things with you, then you should have a meeting where the public can come and review the policies and procedures before you vote on them, and they can decide whether you are going to change those policies and procedures and make them less able to speak to you. I think that the Michigan Township Association always talks about trying to include and not exclude folks from the meetings and give them opportunities to speak. I think that's important. You said you made a compromise. I think that from what you have said, Mr. Budny, Mr. Bletcher, and I think there were 3 people on the committee that wrote up the policies and procedures most recently. So you're making rules and regulations for how many people? 10,000 people?
No, for
and
7.
My thought is that we, as the public, should have a voice in that. The other thing I noticed is that you're spending $7,000 on file cabinets, and I wondered if there was a digitalization process for the township so that all those materials are put into an electronic file
and we don't have to spend money on new file cabinets. That seems to be where everybody else is going, and I'm wondering if that is something that we're doing here. So, Mr. Bletcher, you also said that you thought we should go to one time where the public
Mr.
is able
Flavin,
to speak.
I will tell you that you're at your 3 minutes, so please wrap it up, please.
You asked for one opportunity for the public to speak because of disinformation. Let me say that at the end of each meeting, you elected officials have the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone? Bob?
Bob Z. Blauvelt. I also would like to speak on the vote that took place here today. Remember when this was put in place, Jim, when you took over, was your suggestion that we get to talk at the end? Was approved by the board, and then all of a sudden things changed. And here we are, basically we're voting on a policies and procedures, and this meeting had already changed too. There were a lot of productive reasons given by the people why we should be able to speak at the end of the meeting, such as commenting on liaison reports, trustee reports, treasurer, clerk, department manager. But yet the reasons that I've heard from you and the board that night on the 24th were, it's a board meeting. So that kind of put the people second best in allowing them to make their comments at the end. And Mr. Bletcher also made a comment that I found very disappointing and kind of offensive, that the people should not be allowed to speak at the end because they might give misleading information or say something false. And quite honestly, this coming from an individual that has done that himself. So it goes both ways. So the 4 people that voted tonight to not let the people speak at the end of the meeting, which is the body of the meeting, you own it. You're going to own it till November 2024 as the people who restricted public comment. And it looks like the clown bus might be coming back again. Thank you. This is not going to go away.
Anyone else? Is there anybody behind the
Nobody
podium?
behind. Nope.
Okay, just off to the side.
Nope, yeah, no.
Greg Carmazin, resident Clinton Township, taxpayer, homeowner, Grosse Ile, 21228 East Road. I think the comments by Kevin Flavin and Bob Zelasko covered a lot of what I feel about the proposed change in the second public comment period. But I would just add one thing, that it was discussion that a meeting didn't take place after the October 24th study session, at which developed this consensus that you voted on tonight. I think, it's debatable about whether or not a meeting takes place when you do deliberation by email. And I think it's pretty clear that the consensus that you had at the meeting on October 24th was to basically leave the 2 comment periods the way they were. And then that changed between October 24th and tonight. And the only reason that changed, as Supervisor Budny has explained, is because of email communications that were received from the trustees. And that, of course, took place outside of a board meeting. So I would just say whether or not you're compliant with the Michigan Open Meetings Act or not, technically, I think that the issue is all deliberations need to be held in a public forum, in a public meeting. Okay, and even if you can find a legal analysis that says that you don't have to follow that principle, I think it's a best practice. A best practice is to have all deliberation on policies and procedures or any action item, anything you're voting on, should take place in a open meeting. And furthermore, the meeting should be televised. Unfortunately, it's been the policy of this current township board and past ones as well, not to broadcast study sessions. And I would say that there are other municipalities in Downriver and across Metro Detroit that don't do that. They televise all their public meetings, and I would encourage the board to do that. And finally, just to make a comment, the agenda tonight, okay, the agenda tonight that was put out in advance of this meeting shows that the public comment period was moved to before the trustee reports. So you actually put out an agenda for tonight's meeting ahead of the vote, assuming that that was in fact going to be the vote tonight of the board. And I would just say, I mean, it's right here on the agenda, Mr. Supervisor.
Greg, I'm not gonna comment, so. go
I know,
ahead.
I'm just saying, you're nodding your head against it, but it's right here, right on the paper.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah, so anyways, that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Other comments? Yes, sir, Bill.
Bill Heil, I live on East River. I think that, and I'm speaking here just for myself and my thoughts in this situation.
Bill, I'm gonna get up for a minute. I'm not being disrespectful to you. Please go on.
The single biggest asset that this board can have is the support and understanding of the community. And the best way to sustain that, I think, is to have transparency, for want of a better word. And when I see what is going on here, and we put it on the agenda and we take it off the agenda, and we have some of these things going on as they are, I don't have an answer on how to conduct this. That's your choice. But you would enhance your position here, even if the news that you needed to share with the public was distasteful. I think that our citizens here are intelligent. I think they have above average incomes. I think that they are on average a bit older than other people in communities because of the fact that it takes some time to accumulate the means to live here. And along the way, I respect our public for their abilities. I would think that I would hope that you could find a way to make the right decision and explain it in such a way that they would understand and accept, not necessarily like. You're not here to do what someone likes. There's nobody on this board that has always made a choice that they liked. And when they understand where it is going, there would be more confidence, and I think that confidence is necessary. And the issues that are here are exemplary of that. I don't want to go into any details. I just want to speak in a subjective way on this and leave it as food for thought. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Bill. Thank everybody. Anybody else?
Ryan.
Oh, do you have it for this? Okay.
So I'm assuming deleted item I'm not talking about till later, or do you want to talk about it now? Something that was deleted off the agenda.
We haven't actually voted on the overall, I guess we
Yeah, you
voted
did.
to delete it. We didn't vote to, on the agenda.
Yeah, you approved.
Yeah, I'm sorry, on the consent agenda, yeah. Okay, yes, it's deleted. Yeah,
So now or later?
now,
Okay. Well, I have two.
yeah.
First one, Kathy Walker, Thorpe Court. I am surprised, disappointed, and shocked at the board's brazen action in tonight's attempt to further financially burden the residents of Grosse Ile with a 1% tax increase after we are charged with paying the recent 4.3 millage increase. The citizens of Grosse Ile are not made of money. I would strongly encourage the board to dismiss this agenda item as frivolous and question the timing of its proposal. Good management looks at reducing expenses, not just automatically raises fees. I would hope this item is voted down. Secondly, in my opinion, public comment should not be positioned before the trustees and management reports. Common sense tells you the public can't comment on the trustees and management issues if the public hasn't heard them. It makes me feel that the board wants the last word with no input from the public. I know the board cannot be concerned that public might have issues with the trustees' reports. The board meeting is open to the public. I would hope this agenda item hasn't been concocted to silence public discourse, with the last words being unchallenged and obliterated by lack of discussion. And second one, Bob Peters, Lakewood Drive. How can Budny and members of this board in good conscience attempt this end around after we just passed 2 ballot proposals? This is disgusting sleight of hand. It isn't legal, which is debatable. It's certainly immoral. This community needs to bring legal action if this is initiated without public discussion. Budny and his co-conspirators have shown nothing but incompetence to island residents. That's all I have.
Well, that's interesting. Thank you. That's it for any other public comment. Hearing none, we will move to the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you.
David?
Okay. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 22-055, which includes the minutes of the October 10th, 2022 regular meeting, check registers dated through November 4th, 2022, approval to process and distribute payments through December 2nd, community development file cabinets, a contract change order for the ditching and flooding control, a Public Services Commission appointment, Zoning Board of Appeals alternate appointment, approval of the Wayne County Winter Supplemental Maintenance, approval of the Wayne County Winter Supplemental Maintenance Program, 2022 revised winter tax levy, and the Policy and Procedure Handbook, dated November 14th, 2022.
Support.
Thank you. Comment?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So just for the edification of anyone who's so interested, the consent agenda is put together simply to save time during a board meeting. If each one of these were an independent action item, meetings would be much longer. But that being said, these are usually things that are fairly innocuous and, general business type items. The board members each have the right and the opportunity to ask to remove any one item from the consent agenda and have it transferred to be an action item in order to discuss at length. So if there were board support, for instance, to remove community filing cabinets, a board member could have said, I would like to take this out of the order of the consent agenda and place it as an action item. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I don't think a vote needs to happen to that. The board member can simply ask.
And it will be done.
So that it is done, so that no item can be just kind of swept under the rug, as the implication may be. So before we voted on the consent agenda, I just wanted to make that clear, that that is an opportunity that exists for the board members.
Thank you, Luda. Any other comment? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve consent agenda 22-055, which consists of the minutes of October 10th, 2022 regular meeting, check register dated through November 4th, 2022, approval to process and distribute payments through December 2nd, 2022, community development file cabinet purchase, contract change order for ditching, flooding control, a Public Service Commission appointment, a Zoning Board of Appeals alternate appointment, approval of the Wayne County Winter Supplemental Maintenance Program, the 2022 revised winter tax levy, and the revised policies and procedures handbook. I will take a roll call vote on approval. Joe?
Nay.
David?
Aye.
Okay, Uda?
Nay.
Okay, Carl?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Consent agenda passes. Thank you. Next we have our action items. And David, if you would.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to make a motion, well, this is to approve the attached, resolution authorizing issuance of 2023 capital improvement bonds, and to authorize the township's finance director to receive competitive bids for the bonds and to award the bonds to the lowest qualified bidder.
Support.
Okay. These bonds are as a result of the wastewater treatment plant millage that was passed in August. The total amount of the bonds is not to exceed $10 million, and they'll be used for the cost of acquiring, constructing, furnishing, and equipment improvements and upgrades pursuant to a state of Michigan legal order. The interest rate on the bonds, well, the bonds they'll be issued for 20 years at a rate to be determined at sale. At this time, the interest rate is estimated to be less than 5%.
Comments or questions? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the resolution for the issuance of the 2023 capital improvement bonds and to authorize the township finance director to receive competitive bids for the bonds and to award the bonds to the lowest bidder. Joe?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Uda?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Kyle?
Aye.
And I vote aye. We have approved action item number 1. Thank you. David?
You. Okay. Based on a recommendation from the Grosseal Department of Public Services Commission, the Grosseal Township Board hereby approves the replacement of variable frequency drive numbers 1 and 3 at the Grosseal Wastewater Treatment Plant, utilizing low bidder UIS SCADA. In addition, the Grosseal Township Board approves the purchase of a spare VFD, variable frequency drive, at the suggestion and recommendation of a plant operator. Total cost for the replacement and purchase of a spare unit shall not exceed $45,070.
Thank you, Joe.
This is budgeted for this year, and it's the replacement of the VFDs. And there are 4 of them. 2 of them were replaced last year under an emergency purchase authorization. And the proposed replacement ensures that all 4 units are new and a spare exists in the case of an emergency. It's a budgeted expense, and it was basically a single source, Allen Bradley, and because it saves the expense of retrofitting all the cabinets where the drives are located.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, we have a motion based upon the recommendation from the Grosseal Department of Public Service Commission that the Grosseal Township Board hereby approves the replacement of variable frequency drive numbers 1 and 3 at the Grosseal Wastewater Treatment Plant utilizing low bidder UIS SCADA. In addition, the Grosseal Township Board approves the purchase of a spare variable frequency drive at the suggestion of the plant operator. The total cost of the replacements and purchase of the spare unit shall not exceed $45,070. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We continue to be able to run our wastewater treatment plant. Thank you. Okay, and Kyle, I owe you an apology there.
Probably.
I have known Uda to be on the planning commission so long. I forgot. Kyle, if you would, action item number 3.
Yes, based on a recommendation from the Planning Commission, I'd like to make a motion for the adoption of amendments to Article 19, General Provisions, Section 1911, Accessory Structures and Uses.
Second. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We got plenty of seconds
We got
there.
plenty of seconds.
Okay, a little history on what you're doing there.
Sure. The Planning Commission generally reviews our zoning ordinances. There was a finding that folks along Thoroughfare Canal have trouble building any sorts of accessory structures because of both restrictions on the roadside and on the riverside. And so realizing that people were, so basically this was recommended as a way to allow folks to build very, very small sheds on the riverside, basically. Yeah, so that's the history discussion. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mhm.
Very good. Any comment? Go ahead, Uda.
And just some of the context behind that is when you find that an ordinance is unnecessarily restrictive, or it doesn't totally fully represent actually the character of the area based on the evidence of what is there, the key is to change the ordinance to reflect more of the reality and the desire of the community. And so, again, showing there's flexibility in the way that the ordinance are written and used. If something doesn't work after a time, there is the opportunity to change it.
Thank you. Other comments?
And I'll just say, Ute led, I think, a lot of this, but yeah, I watched it through video and was very impressed on what led to this. And I know that if the board approves this tonight, they'll be looking at other similar parts, like along Frenchman's Creek, for instance, where there's a similar issue as to what's happening along Thoroughfare Canal. So I don't know, it's interesting to watch the Planning Commission really go through our zoning ordinances and figure out how to make things a little bit better for folks on the island. And I think they did a really good process at coming up with this. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and just in general, we have various regulations, code, zoning ordinances, and putting things in is nice, but things change, and you do have to constantly watch these things to keep them up to date and relevant. Thank you, Kyle. Other comments? None? Hearing none, we have a motion to approve the adoption of amendments to Article 19, General Provisions, Section 19.11, Accessory Structures and Uses. All in favor?
Does this need to be a roll call?
Yeah, it does need to be a roll call, yeah. Mhm.
Is it a?
It's a roll call.
It's, for zoning purposes, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, two.
No problem. Kyle, I'll start with you.
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
Uta,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So our,
Jim,
Our
can I ask a quick
sure,
question before you move on?
absolutely.
Just for purposes, I'm sorry, I don't know this. I should have probably just Googled it or looked it up. But since we're going through this, what is the criteria for the difference between the roll call vote and just the regular vote?
Normally, and
Or
ordinance
whoever
is
wants
one.
to answer.
Basically, if there's a resolution, if you notice, and we'll do that in the consent agenda, sometimes we'll go through, like we did today, because there's resolutions in there. Resolutions are roll call votes. A motion is, can be a
Regular.
voice vote.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to slow you down there.
That's, no problem, no problem. All right, that, with our deletions, that's the end of our action items. We have no, no discussion items for the board, so we get back to public comment on anything. Anybody have any more to say? Bill?
is
Yep,
raising his
okay, and there is nobody over.
There's nobody over
Okay,
there.
okay. Yeah, okay, Bill. No one's, you're by yourself, you have the whole section. Okay, yeah, you know, it's terrible, you can't see anything up here with the podium.
I was thinking about the remarks I had made earlier and thought I might be able to come up with some kind of a suggestion that would help transparency in a very simple way and make it easier for people. You can look at any one of these things like this, Article 19. Somebody that's looking at an agenda and hasn't done any work on it, or somebody looking from television tonight, they wouldn't know what that meant. But in one or two sentences, you can say, we're dealing with zoning on thoroughfare. They seem to have a front yard on both ends. That's on the water side and on the road. And they need a storage shed somewhere, so we had to do something about that. Other places are in similar condition. It's one or two sentences, and in each one of these things, and where I think you gain stature by doing something like that, is that by implication, if people do read it often enough, gee whiz, they've got a lot of things to look at and look at. Consider. When I'm making a request for something, it has to be balanced against a lot of other issues too. And that helps to have a seedbed for a cooperative understanding.
Thank you, Bill.
Excuse me.
Kevin Flavin, Park Lane. This question is about the 1% administrative fee and the police hiring a police officer. If you knew, which you should have known, Mr. Supervisor, that we were going to be, there weren't going to be enough funds to hire another police officer for the retiring police officer, why didn't you ask for a larger millage at the primary election time? It seems disingenuous and kind of just I can't understand why you wouldn't ask to have enough money to fund the police and then come back after we do this huge tax increase, why you would come back and ask for another 1%. It just does not make any sense. And I hope the public asks you regularly and at election time how you were able to decrease our taxes versus how you constantly increased our taxes. And that doesn't include the tax that we're going to see from inflation, the Headley tax, and next year we're probably going to see another 5% tax increase with Headley, up to that amount. So I really would like you to explain to the public why that is done that way. And Mr. Bletcher, Ms. O'Connor, and Mr. Nadeau, you vote with Mr. Budny on this, so you also have a responsibility to explain why that wasn't why you didn't include enough money for the police department so that we would have a police officer now. We can't vote at this meeting, so we're down a police officer, which means our response time is less, which I've mentioned before, and response time is life. Every minute that they don't get to your place to save, give you, if you're having a heart attack, or if you need, if a young person is having some problems with drugs, every moment that's missed is brain dead time. So I hope that we see a communication commission to respond to the public. I hope that we see a ethics committee to respond to these kind of situations, and a policy and procedure committee, so that the fox is not making the rules and regulations for the hen house.
Anyone else?
I also was disappointed in the deletion of action
Could you
item
just
number
give your,
6.
just
Oh,
give your
Bob
name
Z.
again?
Blauvelt.
Bob. Thank you.
The 5-year plan depicted that we were going to run out of money for the police department in 2023. I feel that the police department should have been allowed to go after a millage for public safety. There's a lot of work that the commission put into this too. Interviewing, selecting. They already had somebody lined up for this position, and now we put them on hold again. Jim, you say you're going to try and find the money. I hope you do, and I hope you find it soon, so that we can support our chief of police and our police department in providing the very service that the people on this island are used to, voted for, and expect. Thank you.
Greg Karmazin, resident Clinton Township, taxpayer, homeowner, 21228 East River Road, Seal. Just, again, following up on the earlier discussion about the action item number 4 and the administrative property tax increase, I would like to thank the board tonight for taking that off the agenda. I think that there definitely needs to be more discussion about that at least the study session, or some other type of open discussion where citizens can offer input, and if there's a rationale for it, it needs to be thoroughly explained. But I would say, as a matter of principle, I just feel strongly, and I think it's been the policy of this board for many, many years, I think in fact forever, that there be no increase in property taxes without a vote of the citizens. And I think that just as a matter of principle, that makes sense, that if you're going to raise property taxes on Grosse Ile, it should be done by the citizens. So I would just urge that, even though I understand it is your legal authority to implement this administrative property tax increase, it is legal.
It's not a property tax.
Well,
It's an administrative fee.
Okay, but it goes on, it's based on your property tax, right? Yeah, so any event, it's a tax increase, however you want to calculate it, and even though it's a small amount, I do think, as a matter of principle, that should be in the hands of the people, the voters of the island. And the following up on Bob Zelasko's comments, I do think that the Grosse Ile Police Department's 5-year plan and the budgeting for the proper staffing to have 3 road patrols on duty on all shifts is extremely important for that response time that Kevin Flavin also mentioned. We know that the first responders are often police, to even a medical or emergency call, and it's critically important that we have those three cars on duty. And I do hope that you'll find a way to fund that position. And then finally, on the public comment periods, I understand the difficulty it is sitting up there and taking sometimes the heat from citizens like me even. I served as a senior staffer for a member of Congress for 9 years in Washington, D.C. And I can't tell you how many town meetings I went to and public meetings I went to where there were hostile comments and sometimes misinformation and wrong information out there. But I do think it is the duty of elected officials to accept public comment to the maximum extent possible. And when you take a third of the meeting agenda, which is reports from the trustees and the township officials, and you don't allow for comments on those reports at that same meeting, it does have the effect of limiting the public's ability to comment at that meeting. And I realize that, we could make comments 2 weeks from now at your next meeting, or maybe a month if you don't have a meeting for a month. But it's not the same as being able to make comments at that same meeting where the reports are provided. And I hope this board maybe takes another look at that, and as I think you can. And finally, I would say, keep in mind that not all the comments are negative that come in after the reports. In fact, if I had the benefit of hearing Supervisor Budny's report tonight, I think I would praise you for the fact that we are going to have a public meeting, as I understand it, on the bridge engineer coming up. And I would congratulate you for doing that. I think that that's a great thing. And I hope that there's a strong citizen turnout for that, because this is your opportunity to hear from an independent, credible expert about the condition of the Parkway Bridge. So thank you, Mr. Budny, in advance of your report, because I'm understanding that's what you are going to say, but thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else? I think we have one other one.
First time speaker.
Yes. Hi, Barb.
This is Barbara Pachuto, 27865 Johnson Road, and I left my warm house to come to this meeting for agenda item number 4, because reading over how much money it was going to raise seemed excessive just to hire one police officer. So it was $300,000 versus the salary and benefits for one police officer. So that was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Hearing none, we'll have go into the reports. Clerk's report.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I was consulting the Google to see if my opinion was correct. I believe the police millage on the August was a renewal and could not be changed to a different amount since it was a renewal. So even if we needed more, we couldn't ask for more because we were asking the voters to renew an existing millage.
Yeah, and that is correct. You have to stay with exactly what is there.
Exactly with what, if we had a new millage, then that is when we could come up with a different number. Mainly for the people who may be watching this at home, I also want to clarify a order of business. When the Township Board voted at the beginning of this meeting to add administrative policy and procedure revision to the consent agenda, the vote was to add the item to the agenda, not to approve or disapprove the item itself. So the first vote was to place the item on the agenda, without which it could not be voted upon. Politically speaking, if the board did not vote to add it to the agenda, of course, the item would die and not come forward. The second vote then, when the item was placed on the consent agenda, that's when, if you approved or disapproved, you would have voted yes or no. So there is an order to the business that we took. So when we all voted aye at the beginning, it was to add the item to the agenda. It was the second vote that cast what we believed, if we were going to approve all those items together. So I just wanted to clarify that because, this stuff is intricate. It's not always easy to see through. But now I want to do some good news. I want to say thank you to my entire election team, our entire election team, Deputy Clerk Friel, Election Coordinator Elena Farmer, and our two election assistants, Colleen and Gail, who did a tremendous job for your township on Election Day and in the weeks and months prior to. I also want to thank the Grosse Ile voters who participated and were patient and understanding, not only on Election Day, but also during the absent ballot voting process. Again, this is probably one of the busiest midterm elections Grosse Ile has had in its history. And I was unable to get this number right now, but Brian, do you recall what the voter turnout was, the overall voter turnout on Grosse Ile? It was had to be fairly high.
Yeah, I don't have the number. I know it was 70. It was 71%, but I don't know the exact
I
number.
want to say 6,800 plus people.
So, to put that into context, for a midterm, that was huge. And so that was a really exciting part of our process, and it shows that our democracy, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or a member of the Workers' Party, our democracy is healthy on Grosse Ile because we come out and we vote and we let the people know where we stand with our votes. So I, as your elected clerk, I was very excited to see that, and I was very proud of my team. We also have a very large group of residents, mostly senior citizens, who practically volunteer their time. I mean, yes, they get a small stipend, they get some, local pizza and some local donuts, but they're volunteers, and they come out and they do this grueling day. Most of them start at 5 a.m., and, I wasn't home. I don't think we left Township Hall till 12:30 that night. And then, of course, you still have to wind down before you go to sleep. So we had, a very dedicated group of people who work very hard into the wee hours, dealing with the details, making sure they got it right. And so that is something to be celebrated in our community. So while we have open space and green space, we also have a really strong voting space, and that's really good for our community. Now, my second happy moment, and I'm wearing my logo proudly, is that as your commission liaison to the Fire Commission, I really want to extend a special thanks to the majority of the voters who came out in favor of continuing the fire operations millage. Again, this is a continuing millage, so we didn't change the amount we were requesting. This was a continuation. And I want to assure everybody who voted yes or no that the department, the commission, the volunteers that serve on a daily basis are all going to continue working diligently and efficiently to make sure that those tax dollars are spent wisely and effectively. So you may not have voted yes, but you can be assured that we know that there are people that are concerned how that money is spent, and that we want to assure everybody that we're being very careful in doing so. And again, every day, our volunteers, they do get a small stipend, they do get, some fringe benefits, but bottom line, they're doing a professional job day to day, now averaging 2 to 3 calls a day. And that is a lot for a small community like ours. So again, Chief Beaudry and his team are there for us, and I want to thank them too for the hard work they put in to gain our community's trust. And then the last thing I'd like to do is send some kudos to the DDA. I stopped in to see them. They were having their meeting here earlier, Mr. Budny. But I wanted to share with them, Ladies' Night was a huge success on Friday, November 11. And what could have been another dreary, wet, cold night on, Macomb Street and most of the businesses being closed turned into a very festive occasion. And I think hundreds of people were out there, mostly women, some kids, some gents, but the foot traffic on the street was amazing, and every store that was open was crowded and busy and doing, good cash business, a lot of good business. But what really struck me is the kind of community feeling that we raised. I ran into a lot of people that know me because they see us here, but I also know them because we're part of the community and sharing with each other, and we should be doing this more often. This gave us a great excuse to get out there and hang out a bit. And my friends and I were stopped along the way by people just saying, "This is great. Tell your board, tell the DDA." And I said, "No, you tell them, because they need to hear from our residents how excited they were about this event and the businesses that were open for this." We joke that, what are we going to find at Ralph's lawnmower for girls, right? But the place was packed with arts and crafts that the owner had put together, and some really delicious libations.
What about weed whips and?
No, Tim said, "Can you bring by some WD-40?" But no, it was just really cool. And the new Hummingbird Cafe that we're looking forward to opening. What a cool facility! And again, planning forward, we have a young family living above the store that they want to operate. And that is the key to a vibrant downtown, is having people actually also live in that downtown and not just be vested in the neighborhood, but yeah, I could just run down to Kroger on my bike, So just a very, very positive feeling on the island in the last couple of weeks. So with that said, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you. This is getting to be a little repetitive, but the only thing that's coming out of the treasurer's office now is your tax bills for the winter tax season. Those should arrive in your mailboxes the first week in December. If you don't receive it, because all property owners, regardless of whether their taxes are paid through their mortgage company, will receive a statement in the mail. If you have questions on the tax bill, or if you have doubts that you may not have received it, contact the treasurer's office. And that's it. Yeah.
Dog licenses, maybe?
Well, it's funny. The dog tags, dog licenses are available. $6 at the cashier's office. And I mention that because, Kyle, you may or may not know, but selling dog tags is a statutory duty of the treasurer's office.
Didn't know that.
I don't think anybody.
Trust me,
I learned two things tonight.
You do need to present your rabies vaccination form when you're purchasing your dog tag.
That's for your dog.
Yeah. I sit on the Commerce Park Airport Commission. Our meeting is this coming Monday, November 21st, next Monday. And the location will be in one of the conference rooms here at Township Hall. The boardroom was being used for a public forum, bridge engineer public forum. And then from the DPS Commission, they send their heartfelt thanks to the voters on Groseal for supporting the road millage. I know we're anxious to get to work on mapping out the next steps and to arrange for bonding. And our next meeting is it's been moved to December 7th as opposed to the 13th. And That's my report for this evening.
Thank you, David. Trustee reports. Joe?
You know what, Jim, can we let Kyle, the young man on the end, go first? I know
Certainly.
that he wanted to,
Certainly.
'cause I don't want to steal any of the thunder.
Oh, okay. Thunder.
Sure. No, thank you, Joe.
Yeah, okay, Kyle.
Go first, I would
I'll
appreciate that.
start. I sit on the Planning Commission. It did not meet this last month, but I know it was anxiously awaiting the vote tonight on the amendment to the zoning ordinance that we just did. So I'm grateful for that vote, and I know that the Planning Commission is going to be using that, and as I said, looking at other areas of the island that it might apply to, and working on that. Lots more to be coming from the Planning Commission, but I don't really want to speak too much about it tonight because I'm honestly it's just still learning and meeting folks on the commission and yeah, just trying to bring folks along basically. So, but yeah, I'm excited that we passed that tonight. I think that was my first action item in motion, or action item getting passed. So I was excited about that. But yeah, I did want to speak about some other things tonight. First, and most important to me was the fee. Well, first, I'm very grateful to Supervisor Budny for taking the fee off tonight. I know that has serious implications for the finances of this township because in order to have balanced the budget according to the numbers that we got in our board packet on Wednesday, that would have had to have been passed. But we can't get that on, well, unless we meet between now and November 18th. We won't be able to do that right now, so I know we're going to have to find other ways to do that, and I'm grateful for the time to be able to do that. But I do have to say, it was a little scary to me how it kind of came about. I've sat in the audience and I've seen trustees say, I didn't have this information in time for this vote. And again, that's part of why I'm grateful that you postponed it. But I'll say it wasn't just that I was sitting back and like looking for the information. If I had, I would have gotten it on Wednesday. But it was, I was looking back and I was asking about some of the information that would have led to me knowing about us not being able to fund this police officer over a month ago, at the audit presentation. I had specifically asked, are we working on projections for the POAM contract? And I was told, we're looking at that on Thursday. When I saw that the POAM contract was in the consent agenda on this meeting, I asked, can we take it out? Where are the projections on that? I was told we're meeting about that next week. And then suddenly, we have an administrative fee on the agenda. I think I saw that it was on Friday. I didn't know it was a 1% fee and that the whole purpose of it was to fund this police officer. It wasn't until the week of the election that I found that out. And yeah, it was just really scary to me. It tells me, I just think it's on all of us, and I include myself in this, to do a better job budgeting with the people's money and being more open about it, I would say. I don't know. I mean, I've put out ideas for how to fund that police officer. I think it's right that we're not doing that right now tonight. And yeah, I mean, we've got some hard choices to make. I know that, and I think we've got to be honest with people about that. So yeah, that's one thing I wanted to say and get into a little bit. And then yeah, I wanted to go into the public comment and switch it a little bit. Honestly, the process on that was the process. I did tell Jim, that this is the way that I'd prefer it to be, and he offered that compromise. And I got to say, that's part of being on this board. I've heard folks say 4v3, et cetera. I haven't really felt that. I've felt a lot of different opinions, a lot of different ways to approach things. And I'm grateful for that, and I'd like to keep that going. And I'd encourage folks in the public to see the folks up here as individuals, because even before, when I was out there talking to the individuals up here, I always found that each had their own different view, and I'd encourage everyone to approach people up here in that way. And I'd also say I have seen a lot of misinformation on the public comments. I'll say that right off the bat. I've seen people saying we're not allowed to public comment anymore, et cetera. And that's the opposite message of what I think we want to send on this. For me, I want to see more people here, and I'm very grateful to you for coming tonight. I know it's not easy to sit there, and so I'd encourage first all of us that are here and have been here before to bring more people in. Even just to send that email. I'm glad, Brian, you read those two tonight. I know I ask every meeting for people to do that. We have got a lot of work to do if we're going to bring the community along on some of these tough decisions. So yeah, I'll say that. And then finally, I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but going back to that fee, we were just handed, the votes on Tuesday were historic. I think they could very well be existential for this island. The schools are huge. As we all know, enrollment's been dropping there. So I'm hopeful that turns it around, or at least makes people more optimistic about that. But the road millage, for me, that's our best negotiating power with Wayne County, unfortunately or fortunately, is money. And so we have a huge way to negotiate with Wayne County now that we didn't before. And as we know, Wayne County has existential power over this island. So, these are huge trusts that were handed to us. I feel that the addition of that fee might have broken that trust a little bit, and I hope that we all work to get it back, is what I would say. So I'll leave it there for tonight.
Thanks, Kyle. Joe?
That's why I deferred.
Well, I think even if he had gone next, he would have said the same thing.
Yeah, so that's why.
Yeah, no, go ahead,
Kyle
Joe.
and I spoke. I just think, well, first off, let me tell you, I do sit on the police commission. We do meet the third Tuesday in this room, usually at 6 o'clock, sometimes 7, but it'll be posted either way. I'd just like to say thank you, Jim, also. I just believe we need more time. I know the millages that were passed, I believe, it was 4.3 mills, correct, Ann? All of them. I'm talking about schools, too. Yes. Yeah, 4.3 mills were added. And Mr. O'Donnell told me that this year was the highest tax increase for property taxes just because of inflation, and probably next year will be big too. So we are getting a couple hits there. And I understand if this is the only way to do it, this is the only way to do it. I just rather would have had more time to look at this and maybe dissect it a little bit and see where we're at and what type of funding mechanisms maybe can be used and what funding mechanisms can't be used. And then we would go from there. So again, Jim, thanks, I guess, and all three do go in order. How about in order? How about together? I should have said in order. Probably
They're all in the same basket.
it probably wasn't
Yep.
the right term.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, and that's all I have for tonight.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Carl?
I have the pleasure of sitting on Greenways Open Space Committee, and again, I want to thank Cliff St. Pierre for all of his time and working. It was great that we had a presentation to him tonight. All too often we do it after the fact. Cliff's been terrific. I also want to thank the voters for their support.
Yeah.
I also want to thank the voters for their support with the millages. When we look at fire passing with a 73-27% margin, roads 60-40, that's because the taxpayers, I think, understand what was at stake, and they are involved and committed to continuing this community's safety and, frankly, infrastructure program. And that's on top of the sewer millage for the operation of the sewage treatment plant in August, as well as the police millage that was passed then. And I really think that that's just terrific that the community, once they understand something, goes out and supports it strongly. I want to thank Greg Karmazin for his comments tonight. Greg, you're absolutely right. There is give and take. Sometimes you have some things that are said that are pointed up here that sometimes are accurate, and I would echo Kyle's sentiments that sometimes are not. I very strongly support having the reports of the board after the last public comment, because I believe it is imperative, it is a duty, and it is an obligation of all members that are elected to the township board, as well as the township manager, township attorney when they are present, as well as our chief financial officer, to correct any misstatements. I saw Ms. O'Connor a couple of moments ago say, when we look at the August millage, it was a renewal. We could not increase the tax. It was a renewal. Corrected some information. I also understand that there was, or recall that there was some statements tonight about people wanting to be able to have comment once the reports are done. And Greg, again, I agree with you. I think public comment is very, very important. I also noticed that they left before the report started. So I'm hoping that they go home and watch this on TV and can come in next time. I applaud you for driving all the way down from Clinton Township to visit with us and to make your comments and help us be better citizens and better board members. And I applaud you for doing that, Greg, and I can't thank you enough for that. I think you do a good public service, and I appreciate that. It sounded better if you were coming from Clinton Township, Greg, my gosh. But thanks for that truth and honesty in the comment. And I, again, very much appreciate that. I welcome the opportunity to have the bridge engineer come in and be able to explain to us what is appropriate in terms of future maintenance, current conditions, not just where we've been, because we've had a report that had an awful lot of pictures, had an awful lot of information from Wayne County that was gathered, but I would like to see where we are going in the future and what we need to do to maintain this bridge and hopefully get another 30 years out of it, is what they were talking about. Nothing would make me better, feel better as a man who's 65 years old, so I know that we will have done that. I also want to say that when we look at public comment, it is important that we be able to have a discourse. I hear and listen to everything everybody says, whether it is Kathy Walker or Rob Peters or someone else calling in, emailing, whether it is Greg Karmazin, Bill Heil, Bob Zelasko, Kevin Flavin coming to the microphone. And ma'am, I don't remember your name, but like who? Thank you for coming tonight. We listen to what you have to say. We hear what you have to say. Bill and I have had numerous conversations for the last 6-7 years since we sat on your porch. Bill, and I enjoy it. I learn something from you virtually every time I hear you speak. And Greg, I feel the same way with you. We might not always agree, but we've been able to disagree without degenerating into personalities. And I respect that. I love that. I think that's just absolutely terrific. And I want to thank you gentlemen for coming here and taking the time tonight, and you ma'am for doing the same thing. We do listen. I did not agree with the admin fee. We've been over that bridge, but I appreciate the fact that we are now looking and talking about how we're going to be able to take care of a new POAM contract that is going to have significant long-term savings. It costs us money right now. And I'm going to say we're going to be looking at a millage next year and let the voters decide. But if the voters can understand what we are doing with this, there's not a shortage of officers right now as things stand. We have our officers as the first responders in 95% of the time. They do a terrific job. It is up to us, to the board as a whole, to propose to the community, how do we clarify this? How do you fund this? I've been the beneficiary of having several calls made to family and friends over the last couple of years, 4 in the last 2 decades. I appreciate the work that they do, and everybody on this board does as well. So when we take this to the community and the community has an opportunity to thumbs up or thumbs down, we're going to be able to do that in the format that it should be. But I appreciate the opportunity that Jim has put this ball in place. We are starting to look at how can we fund these things. And I have all the confidence in the world that Ann Darsnick is going to be able to give us options. We might not always agree with every option, but my God, we're going to be able to make this thing work. We are going to have public safety that is second to none. I don't care what other communities do with an admin fee, but what I like to see is this discourse, and I like to see the public be able to intelligently, with all the facts before them, and that's getting back to why we have the last word. I think that's important. I don't disagree with your right to having 2 public comments. I see the wisdom in it. I'm persuaded. But I think it has to be based on good information and let the public make the decision. And by God, with good information, I'm confident they will. That concludes my report and my comments.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you all, trustees. We have no township attorney. As everybody knows, we have hired a new law firm to take care of our legal work, and we have no report from them today. Mr. Township Manager, Derek.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. Just have a couple items this evening. Residents should have started to receive about a week, maybe a week and a half or so ago, their residential cross-connection survey requests. Trustee Porcerelli actually contacted me because he had a couple of questions about how to answer some of the questions that were on that survey. And just like the board member, I would encourage you to contact Township Hall. Obviously, him and I spoke, but encourage you to contact Township Hall, and we'll walk you through that to try to make sure that you have answers to the questions that you have about how to fill that out. So about 1,000 of those went out. I believe they started towards the northern end of the island. So if you didn't receive one, don't be surprised. Only 1,000 of them went out. So about a quarter of the township received those. So get those filled out as quickly as you can. But if you have any questions, feel free to contact us and we'll walk you through it. I did take a trip down to Meridian Road Bridge earlier today. That project, which is the DTE gas main relocation project there, which was scheduled to conclude on the 15th, which is tomorrow, looks to be about an additional 2 weeks out. So that's what we're looking at that location. So once again, that is a project that Mishcon and DT is doing to move the gas main because where sat previously was in conflict with the bridge replacement, so they had to do that in preparation of that bridge replacement. So that's what that work is about. Speaking on additional DTE projects, Bellevue, west of Meridian, right past the clubhouse at the country club, all the way to pretty much the start of the Water's Edge complex, or Water's Edge course, that stretch of road is closed. And that will be closed probably through about January. They being DTE, they're bringing an additional electrical feed across the river. To bring that additional feed through, they're running a piece of conduit underneath the river bed, and then they'll pull the electrical line through that. So in order to make that work, they have to use that stretch of Bellevue to fuse the pipe that they're sending down below the riverbed and pulling over to the Trenton side. So all that has to be strung out so they can actually pull it underground, almost like a snake going underground. So it all has to be connected before they can send it subterranean. So unfortunately, the residents will be a bit burdened there as well for an energy reliability project that will be done hopefully in January. We've been contacted by Wade Trim. They're currently working on the engineering for the Elba Island Bridge, so that is in process and hopefully on track to be completed as previously discussed with the county. All indications are that that's the case. Tree trimming on the island has been suspended until January. So all the trucks that you saw around the island, those will not be back until January, right after Christmas, actually the second week in January. So we're getting a little bit of a break from that work occurring, but will be happening shortly after the new year. As we had all talked about with Cliff earlier, the work that the Greenways and Open Space Committee has done and continues to do is fantastic. One of the most recent projects they've been working on is a trail between East River Road over to Meridian through the Manchester Woods area. Wood chips have been spread over the past couple of months. A lot of the wood chips we received actually from the tree trimming work that's going on. That's what those big piles along Meridian are for. That will be a wood chip trail running all the way from Meridian all the way to East River Road. That's probably about 80% complete currently. You can walk it right now. It's just not chipped in perfectly. And that work will continue to occur over the fall, the winter months. But a fantastic opportunity to be able to use the open space to get through there and recreate, walk your dog. It's a fantastic trail. It's plenty wide and well manicured. So take advantage of that and check that out if you have the opportunity. Yard waste, the last week for yard waste is December 15th. I know we've received a number of phone calls. That is on our website under our DPS webpage under yard waste dates. Always every year it is the week of December 15th is the last week for pickup. They will come back and pick up Christmas trees after the holiday. But the last week for yard waste, like leaves and grass and whatnot, is that week. As the treasurer had mentioned earlier, the DPS meeting has been switched from December 13th to December 7th. The purpose for that is so that we can review the bids that are due on the 28th of November for the ACO work over at the wastewater treatment plant. So Raines will be making a presentation to the DPS Commission on the 7th. A recommendation will come from the DPS Commission to award to the board. It's going to be my request that Raines come, that's our engineers, to the meeting on the 12th of the board to explain the project, explain the bids. It's probably one of the largest capital improvement projects that any one of us will be part of during our duration here with the township. It's going to be a pretty financially heavy project, upwards of probably $7 million for this portion of the project. So it's critical, obviously, that the board understands exactly what work is being done, and then also the bid award will be coming before you so that we can get moving on that project in compliance with the EGLE guidelines that have been submitted. So with that, I believe that is all that I have, and I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek, and we'll get you on your way so you can go hunting. I'm going to have just some short comments. First of all, and foremost, thank you, residents of Groseal, for your support of our millages, the fire and the road. We really appreciate it. A lot of work went into those millages, especially the road millage, and regardless of whether you voted for or against, you all will benefit from that program, and it's a pretty darn complete program where we can touch a lot of roads on this island, and obviously the primary roads are our first concern, and that's what a lot of what you will see in the first couple of years. But then we'll be able to do a lot of work on our residential roads, which was really the prime factor in that. When we talk about Wayne County, although they have a responsibility for all the roads, nowhere in Wayne County do they really touch residential roads. It's always the primary roads. So any hope we would normally have for work, as we saw them, they paved did that strip of East River. That's what they would do. They wouldn't be getting back into our residential roads, and this program will allow us to get in there and fix our residential roads. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for the fire millage, our fire department. Like everything else, there's an expense. In fact, today I was in Riverview speaking to the committee on the Riverview land fill, and everybody is saying, there is a cost to everything. And where does it come from? And I explained to the committee, as far as cost to Groseal, it comes from our residents, because we don't have commercial or business to take a big piece of that. So any increases are very important to our residents. Anyway, I can't thank you enough for what you did. You will see the rewards of your votes. I do want to mention next Monday, the 21st, at 6:30 in this room, we are bringing the bridge engineer in to go over his report, and it will be set up so people that are here can ask questions. There won't be any debating, there won't be any discussions, but they can ask, everyone will be able to ask their questions. In fact, I will tell you, this is not a formal board meeting, we're putting it on, but even it's optional for the board members to come. If they don't have any questions, they need not attend. This is more for the public to get their questions answered. So that's next Monday, the 21st, 6:30 in this room. I think plenty has been said about public comment, and I understand the people that got up and spoke. weren't satisfied, didn't want to really, it's not up to them to compromise, it's not their call. But unfortunately, and I truly mean this, when I first ran for the township board, one of the big things that I wanted to do was pack this room at every meeting. Have the people in it. The people got to know what's going on. And much to my dismay, sitting here now 10 years on the board, it's just never happened. If there's an issue, people will come. Much like our presentation today, we had people in here, and then the presentation was over, everybody leaves. We have, and I don't mean this meanly or anything, but we have our regulars, that come, and I'm thank God for them, or we'd have nobody. So the public comment part, it has to be there. First of all, by law, the Open Meetings Act requires a public comment. MTA in open meetings and a number of places, including all of our commissions, have one public comment. And they have it at the very beginning of their meetings, most of them, not all of them, most of them, and that's it. We have had two public comments, and I believe I was on the board when that second public comment was introduced. I believe it was my first term, and it bounced around as to where it was. But I do take a little bit of offense to say that we don't allow public comment. There's plenty of public comment. Plus, I will say, and I'll use as an example one of the comments that Brian read. People see a headline or an agenda item and make these wild assumptions. Quite frankly, the 1% admin came up so that we could get that police officer, which came up under the POAM contract, not before, so that as a way that we could get him now. We couldn't do a millage because it was too late to put millage wording on the ballot. Everything, there are time periods, there are procedures for everything that people don't realize and they don't ask, but they make all these assumptions. And, I've said it, and I don't mean this, we are open 5 days a week. I'm in here 5 days a week. I return every phone call I get. I return every email that I get, as I'm sure the rest of the board does. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to ask questions and get answers. Quite frankly, the only difference of doing it here is that you're on TV. That doesn't add or detract from anything. It is you getting an answer to your question. And we will give it. As far as, the admin and the comments that were made on the admin came up with was the thought so that we could bridge a gap, not have a huge increase on the public, on the taxpayers of Groseal, to get us to the years that where we have millages falling off. A police officer costs money. The police department costs money, and we need to fund it, and it's the people who are going to fund it, like everything else. There's nothing we put on by ourselves. This was a measure. If we would have used this, or if we do use it, which we may after we discuss more, but it came up late in the game because the idea of getting this officer came up late in the game. And the police department was fully aware of everything that was going on. there is no hiding. There is no dealing behind closed doors that sometimes is portrayed. Things happen. Things have to happen. We here know how they have to go and the procedures that we have to use. That sometimes the people, actually, absolutely the people, the residents of Groseal don't understand. I sure as heck didn't understand a lot of this, and I'm still learning. I sure as heck didn't understand it before I got on the board. So I would encourage you to contact us, to come down to the meetings, and voice your views. I absolutely echo Carl and the other board members who we need your comments, because that, without your comments, and it's the comments of the township, it's certainly, I mean, of the residents. When we hear from four people out of 10,700 is not a representative number. They need your support as much as we do, in order for us to know what the community wants. We need to hear from you, and by and large, we do not, and thus things come up. We have to do things because business still has to go on, and so we come up with the best we can. But it shouldn't be just the seven of us here coming up with all the ideas. We need your input to come up with the idea to go move this community ahead correctly. So I encourage you to contact us one way or another, whether it is coming to the meeting, whether it's calling us, whatever. I encourage you to do that and try and find out when you come to a thought that, and I chuckle at the what was said that Budny came up with this 1%. I grudgingly agree to that. That 1% actually is charged by every community in the downriver area except Groseal, and only because of the circumstances did I say okay, let's use this. Other board members came out and said, hey, I need more time. We agreed to that. That's how we work. But that's how things have to move along also. So we will figure that out. So again, I reiterate, please let us know what you think. Bridge report. One last thing, I would wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. We will see you at our next meeting, which will be in December, and then we'll be able to wish you a Merry Christmas. That's the end of my comments. Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all for coming.